Welcome to The Dental Brief, the podcast that delivers actionable insights and expert strategies to help dental professionals like you grow, lead, and succeed. I'm your host, Patrick Shavasty, the president of Omni Premier Marketing. Every week at The Dental Brief, we bring you real conversations from expert speakers that offer expert advice and quick tips that make a real difference in practices nationwide. Whether you're a general dentist or run a multi-location practice, we've got you covered with content that's designed to help you attract more patients, to streamline your operations, reduce headaches in managing your practice, and increase your profitability. If you're ready to elevate your practice, be sure to subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and let's dive into today's episode of The Dental Brief. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Dental Brief. I'm excited to have back with me one of the most successful dentists that I know, Addison Killeen. Say hello to everyone.
Hey, thanks for having me back on. I must not screw up any of my previous appearances because you keep allowing me to visit the show.
You always put out terrific value, great information, great content that if people are listening and paying attention to what you're saying, they're going to be able to use that information and benefit themselves that day, that week, that month, that year. So we appreciate that. That's what we want to do the show for. And you make it really easy. So I thank you. Let's talk a little bit about your practice. Lincoln, Nebraska, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Home of the Cornhuskers.
Yeah. Great place to practice. It's been a great place for you to work out the kinks and really build two successful practices there, right? You're on your second one?
Mm-hmm.
My
first one was a group of 6. And then I sold out. And then, the second one, going different model, just one, I guess what people would call a mega location. We have 14 operatories, but it's just a lot simpler, less headaches. The lost receding hairline was my first 6. Now I'm just getting a little bit of gray beard from my second practice here.
Well, with the success, maybe you've got the money. You can get that hairline going in the right direction again.
Go to Turkey and get some plugs.
Now, something that I want to say, I've got a shameless plug here. I've got a book coming out any day now on Amazon. For a while, it's going to be the cheapest book in the dental industry on Amazon. I think you have the most expensive books on Amazon when it comes to dental. I think that's done on purpose for multiple reasons, but the value is through the roof. Right? Cost, value is totally different things. Everybody knows that. You've got another book that's coming out right now. I'm excited to get my copy. I know it's in the mail, heading this way soon. The Shift. Tell me about The Shift.
Yeah, like you said, all my other books are the big manual kind, couple hundred pages, very nuts and bolts, kind of very boring. But when I look at all the books that I enjoy reading, it's the short stories, the fables, like Patrick Lencioni, Zeno Wickman's story versions. And that's kind of what I did in The Shift. And so The Shift is, I don't know, a couple hundred pages, 186, 177, something like that. And basically it's a story of a young dentist who meets a mentor, and that mentor is not in dentistry, but the mentor teaches him leadership and business principles to take him from his overwhelmed status to a more stable, solid foundation in business. None of the ideas in the book are unique. None of them I can claim as being my own. It's really a melting pot of all the ideas of things that I've learned through reading and coaching and seeing other dentists. And this mentor kind of imbibes all those ideas and just gives really solid foundational principles. And so it's told from the story of a dentist. So of course, people in our industry are going to enjoy it and love it. And they're going to be like, holy crap, that's happened to me. I know that exact feeling, but it's really anything. Like any business could take the principles in the book and kind of use them. And I like reading fables. And so I think stories stick with us really well. And so that's what I think will hopefully stick with the readers.
Yeah. And for those of you that have read it, this is Ken Blanchard is an author, has written some amazing books that are in that format, like The 1 Minute Manager, et cetera. I happened to years ago be at a breakfast, a big group breakfast, and literally there's an older gentleman right in front of me, and he had a younger assistant. I thought, this guy seems like he's somebody. And I said, hey, I'm Patrick. Who are you? And he said, I'm Ken Blanchard. I was like, geez, what a great, I get so lucky to be there. But, his books are in that style. Some of the best books that I've read, they always seem to start off a little corny when you start reading them, but then they're so easy to devour and absorb. Yeah. So congrats on doing that. That must have been a bit of a project, a little learning curve. Yeah.
It was a learning curve to realize how humbling it is to actually try to write something that's not garbage. My manuals are kind of mental vomit, but it's because I've vomited it tens and hundreds of times in coaching calls and in, speaking with people.
Yep.
But this is just like, oh man, to make it not be garbage took probably a year of writing and probably a year and a half of editing, and just
Wow.
really being like, oh, that series of back and forth just doesn't sound good. And this, like, I need to change up this word. I had one of my editors went through and used the, find and replace function on Word. And like, you use this word 37 times. You need to find a new word 36 other times.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so it's humbling. But I think the final product, I'm super glad, is amazing. So
That's great. I'm glad to be able to promote it here. I'm glad, like I said, I can't wait to read it. I know from knowing you, your content, your books, I kind of consider them SOPs, honestly, right? There's a lot of just like procedures in your books. Like if you follow
yeah.
this, you're going to be successful. I think that's why they're so valuable and can save somebody so much time, because writing SOPs is painstaking if you haven't done it before. And if you haven't done it before, you're really missing out from not having them. So check out Dr. Killeen's books on Amazon and I think on your website, AddisonKilleen.com. When you're writing this book, when you're writing The Shift, ton of experience, I think you're a great leader. What are some things that you learned about leadership and being mentored or mentoring people? What were some new things that you discovered during your process?
I mean, I think one of the things that, and it's kind of baked into a story, is that leadership is such a weird term. Like, everyone has their own little model. And of course, there's like the great man theory, there's all these other theories. But when it comes down to it, I kind of based my leadership philosophy in the book around James Hunter, servant leadership. And servant leadership is all just about serving the people who are on your team. And sometimes it's positional, like you're the dentist in the organization or the owner of the practice. But sometimes you're just a hygienist, and like, how do you be a leader from the hygiene chair? And sometimes it's just about, keeping the core values, living out the mission every day. But what I've learned, and what the mentor in the story, Jack's an elderly guy who used to own a manufacturing corporation, made sports goals. And so Jack basically says, they're at a restaurant, and Daniel, the young dentist, orders some pretty trashy breakfast food. And Jack is like, well, I'm going to order like 2 eggs and a water, and like, he eats healthy. And he basically says, well, just like what you feed your body, what you feed your mind is super important. And so you need to be reading well, you need to be listening to books, listening to podcasts, like feeding your mind with good information. And I think in leadership, you never get to the end point. It's always about getting to, like, you're studying for a test that you never know when it's coming. And so basically, if you're always studying, always learning about leadership, then someday when something comes up in the practice and you're forced to make a decision, like, what you should do, but it takes a little bit of courage to do the right thing that a good leader would do. And you're like, oh, a good leader would do this. Well, if you just studied it in the past few days, you have kind of a recency bias around, oh, yeah, this is what I should do because I just studied it or listened to it or heard it on a podcast or watched it on YouTube. And you do the right thing, that starts making you into the leader you want to become. And just that one decision makes it easier to do the second decision, and so on and so forth. And I think that's leadership in a sense, is you're always studying. You never get there. Like none of us are ever going to be the person we're supposed to be until we get to the pearly gates. So it's just all about learning and educating and constant improvement.
Sure. Now, for those of people that say they're not good at leadership, I think that I'm not good at leadership. I think I'm a lot better at leadership than I was last year, and so on and so forth. And I still think I have a long way to go. Nobody really, very few people, if any, are born and they're great leaders, right? And then when I mean great leaders, I mean impacting other people, getting other people to do the things that they want them to do to benefit them, not them themselves selfishly, but for those people to be impacted and to be enriched.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I had a talk with my manager just the other day. My manager, my team leader, actually is what I call her, but in every other organization, you'd call it an OM. My manager was like, "Ah, a couple weeks ago, I just felt like I didn't have anything to do." I said, well, why do you feel that way? He said, well, I've delegated some of this, I've done this. And I said, well, that means that you're empowering other leaders underneath you. Like, you've developed those leaders to be able to do those hard tasks so that they can feel more important. And it does give you some mental freedom. It allows you to kind of tackle other things. But that empty space is actually good. That means you're doing your job as the team leader of the organization. And it's like, that's a hurdle. Sometimes you get a sense of self-respect, self-worth from being busybody and achieving all these tasks. Well, now that you've taught these other people, they get the sense of accomplishment by doing some of these really tough things. And that's leadership. And that's like, it's hard to get as much self-worth out of that if you're not a busybody, but you should feel really good because that means other people are gaining in self-respect and self-worth because of what you've taught them.
Sure. Yeah, that makes absolute sense to me. So what's next? What are you tackling next? What's your new adventure?
My next book will be hygiene. I kind of, whenever people ask me enough questions, I think, there's a book there. And so I'm most of the way through writing the hygiene book. So I bet by the end of the year, we'll have some pretty good resources. But of course, right when you think you're done, you're only 40% of the way there. So
Sure.
Probably 40%.
Let's give a sneak peek into that. What are some of the big questions about hygiene that you're getting asked these days?
Yeah, people wonder about pay structures, bonus structures. So it's like, well, what creates a bonus structure where there's no incentives that actually might work against you? People always wonder about like how profitable should my hygiene department be? What should my goals be? So we'll kind of go through what different insurance payer levels would lead to what makes it tough for a hygiene department to be profitable versus what's maybe a more profitable hygiene department. Ideal kits and setups that like you don't need every tool in the universe, you just need a certain set. So like, okay, what are some different options of like good tool sets? Of course, some of the equipment and armamentarium. But basically, a lot of what I get questions on is I feel like I'm paying too much for my hygiene department, especially since 2020 when hygiene wages have seemingly gone up relative to the rest of the industry. And I think that's one thing where at a certain point, we got to talk about the economics of the entire dental practice. Like we can't always have a really juiced hygiene department because 6 years ago we were paying $38 an hour and now we're paying $58 an hour. Like the economics of your hygiene department are going to change, but hygienists, I mean, most of the time they don't care who the dentist is, they care who their hygienist is. So patients have such a connection with the hygienist. And so I think part of it is tackling like your hygiene department might not be as profitable, but they are still an extremely important part of your dental practice.
Sure.
That you don't want to cut short, as well as also, when to hire the next one. Like don't be as stingy with trying to like not hire and play it cheap for a little bit. Like,
right.
What are the numbers when you need to hire in forward-looking prospectus studies, I guess?
Yep. Makes total sense to me. If you're looking for that book or any of Dr. Killeen's books on the website, there's on the top right corner of the website, I'll give it again, it's AddisonKilleen.com. Of course, you can find it on our websites, on our podcast, social media. Top right corner, there's a connect button. Hit that connect button, place to sign up for the newsletter. I advise you to do that. Also, he's got a podcast. Check that out. Great information on there. Few tidbits a day can really make a big difference in any practice and any business. Dr. Killeen, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Dental Brief. If you found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a colleague who could benefit. We're here to help dental professionals like you stay ahead of the curve, one brief episode at a time. You can find more episodes and resources at thedentalbrief.com. You can also join the Growth-Minded Dentist community on Facebook. Links are in the description. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and thanks for being part of the Dental Brief community.